What's going on, dudes and dudettes? So yes, of course, I forgot to say earlier in another video I uploaded the other day that it was USC's 143rd birthday on October 6th, since they were founded in 1880, which is pretty crazy. Obviously, it's been a long time, and always people wonder why, USC is called USC, and they always say South Carolina is the real USC, but I believe they were founded later, if I'm not mistaken. So yes, we deserve the moniker of USC. And yeah, I think it's also Bronny James's birthday as well. Played for the men's basketball team, so that is pretty cool also. But yes, this video is pretty much going to be breaking down and looking at USC's Big Ten opponents, and also I kind of threw in there some of the home games and away games of the other non-conference opponents as well, to see how much more tougher it is, especially with the amount of good teams now they're going to be playing in the Big Ten, and it's just going to get even tougher later in the next couple of years. So we'll start off with 2024, and the teams that they're playing at home in the Big Ten are Nebraska, Penn State, Rutgers, Wisconsin, and Notre Dame. And Notre Dame is obviously their non-conference. And then away is Maryland, Michigan, Minnesota, Washington, UCLA, and obviously a big non-conference opponent is, LSU in Las Vegas in 2024 to start the season. So that's going to be pretty crazy as well. So this one does look tough also, especially a certain amount of opponents, and you're still having to both play Notre Dame and LSU in your non-conference schedule. And there's some pretty good teams in there as well. Michigan, and you still get your rivalry game against UCLA. So either way, looking good over front. So yeah, Minnesota is a formidable team. It's okay. Washington, you're used to playing them. You will play them again this year. Nebraska should be interesting. Penn State, at least this round, Penn State and Rutgers, you get them in LA. I think in a couple years, they're both scheduled as away teams in conference games, which is going to be tough for USC, having to go all the way back up there to the upper northeast. But maybe they'll get lucky and have those back-to-back and maybe get to stay, an extra 2 weeks out there instead. But most likely the schedulers won't do that for them. And when it comes to 2025, the schedule gets pretty interesting as well. Their home games are Iowa, it's a pretty interesting opponent, Michigan as well, and Michigan State. Michigan is going to be a tougher team. Northwestern and UCLA, along with the two non-conference games, Ole Miss and Georgia Southern. So I don't know, most likely that Ole Miss and Georgia Southern game are going to be in the first couple of weeks. I knew they played Ole Miss in 2026, but I forgot it was also in 2025 too, and I forgot it was a home-and-home series, so at least USC will get to host them first instead of having to go on the road out there in Mississippi until the next following year. But it should be pretty interesting. Hopefully Lane Kiffin is still there coaching the teams. We'll be able to get another win against an ex-USC head coach, and obviously hoping Lincoln Riley is still here, because that'll make it a lot easier as well. But going to the away part of that schedule, yes, they do have Illinois, Nebraska again, Oregon, Purdue, and of course our out-of-conference opponent in Notre Dame. At some point, I forget if it's the next season or the season after, Notre Dame is not on the schedule. Pretty sure they will be put on there, but maybe it ends up getting pushed off, especially if Notre Dame joins another conference, or maybe they join the Big Ten and USC will get to play them whenever. But hoping that traditional rivalry still continues on its way every single season. You never know, but yeah, 2025 just looks pretty solid. This is a little bit tougher than 2024, but still not facing Ohio State yet, so that'll be interesting. You do get Michigan at home, so we'll see how that ends up going. But yeah, speaking of 2026, the crazier schedule a lot of people are talking about kind of starts off home. You got Maryland, Ohio State, finally see them at home, and while you're playing in the Big Ten, and you get Oregon, Washington, and the two non-conference opponents, Fresno State and Notre Dame. So yeah, it's pretty solid, especially with Notre Dame and Ohio State in there. Oregon as well, if they still have a good enough team at that point. But yeah, Fresno State, not really worried about them. So yeah, overall, it's not that bad of a home schedule for USC in 2026, but on the road in 2026, get some pretty crazy opponents. So they do get Indiana. I believe that's the first time they're playing them in Big Ten play. Like I mentioned, Penn State and Rutgers. So that's that crazy Northeast Coast trip. Wisconsin, UCLA, and the non-conference big one at Ole Miss as well to complete that home and home series that they scheduled way back when. So yeah, definitely looking forward to this. Could be a very interesting setup. It's definitely one of the tougher stretches this year, and like I said, that 2025 year is pretty stacked as well. But yeah, this one's going to be pretty tough. So hopefully USC has enough, good enough players at that time to be able to compete with this schedule. Heading into 2027, pretty nice go ahead here at home. You get Illinois, Indiana, Minnesota, Wisconsin, UCLA, and your two non-conference are UNLV and Nevada. So I pretty much have them winning every single one of those games. So that's at least a good over 500 step right there. But then away schedules, you get Iowa. It's kind of interesting. Maryland, Ohio State, Washington, and as I mentioned, looking at the future schedules, there was no Notre Dame, who would be the non-conference game that they would have on their schedule. So maybe it does come in the future in a couple more years that they set it up. But like I said, never know with the never-ending changing landscape of college football. And we get to the next year in 2028. Home schedule, start off with Iowa, Nebraska, Penn State, Purdue, Fresno State, and then, yeah, there's probably like maybe one more non-conference home game that they're missing, because I think maybe two because of Notre Dame as well, if they still schedule the home and away, because the year before it would have been away, this one is home. So expect one of those to be secured by Notre Dame, and then another, whoever they get to play non-conference, should be an easier matchup. But when it comes to the road games in 2028, do have a couple of good ones. Michigan State, Northwestern, Oregon, UCLA, and like I said, yeah, still missing the Notre Dame game too. So there probably is going to be another non-conference away game. You never know, or they could just schedule all home teams, kind of like how they did, this year. They scheduled at least two when it came to San Jose State and Nevada. So we'll see. Hopefully it's a couple bit of different matchup. It always seems like it's Fresno State or Nevada, San Jose State, maybe a Utah State will be thrown in there too at some point. It always kind of seems the same group of guys. I know Wyoming doesn't like to get scheduled because they're pretty tough, but I think they're tougher when you play them up there in Laramie, Wyoming, instead of down here in LA. So don't schedule a home and home. Just try to get them just to play you at home. So we'll see how that goes. But yeah, pretty crazy future when it comes to scheduling for USC. If I can remember, I'm gonna go back and check real quick, because I only remember them playing Ohio State once. I could be wrong. Going through this real quick. Okay, at home, they get Ohio State in 2026. Going. Okay. So yeah, 2026, they get them at home, and then 2027, they'll get them away. And I think maybe they play Michigan one more time than that. So those are obviously the top two teams in there. They do play Penn State quite a bit, which is, obviously the third probably best team out there in the Big Ten right now. But when you look at future 2024 recruiting rankings, if USC and Oregon and Washington, all those schools that are going into the Big Ten, were up there in their recruiting block, they would still be like a top 5 team ranked up there. So they're still going to be, quite heavy at the top, as they say, in that conference, and they'll probably just beat up on each other. But that's the cool thing when the playoff goes to 12 teams now. It's going to be easier to get in when you have 1, 2, maybe even 3 losses as well. As long as they're good losses, then I think you'll be doing just fine later in the year. So yeah, definitely looking forward to this. Thanks for watching, people. Like and subscribe. Comment down below. Let me know what y'all think. Have a great rest of your day. Bye. Bye down.